So I'm Edna, and today I will be presenting my project on process implementation with executable models. This presentation explains how conceptual business process models are transformed into executable models that can run inside a business process management system or BPMS. In other words, we will look at how a business process that is designed conceptually can be turned into a system that actually runs and automates the process in VA organizations. During this presentation, I will explain the key steps involved in these transformations, including task identifications, task granularity, execution properties, and the tools used to automate BPMN processes. So what is process implementations? First, let's understand what process implementation means. Process implementation is the step where a conceptual business process model is transformed into an executable model that can run inside business process management system or BPMOs. A conceptual model simply describes how work should be done in a business process. However, it cannot run automatically. An executable model, on the other hand, contains enough technical information so that the system can execute and automate the process. The VMS helps coordinate tasks between people and software systems, allowing organizations to automate workflows. The main goal of process implementation is to improve efficiency, reduce manual work, and make processes more reliable. Why process automation is important? Product automation is important because it brings many benefits to organizations. First, automation helps reduce repetitive manual work. Employees do not need to perform the same tasks repetitively. Second, automation improves process speed and operational efficiency. Tasks can be completed faster by systems. Third, it reduces human errors that often happen during manual processing. Automation also allows organizations to monitor and control processes more effectively because systems can track activities. Finally, automated processes can integrate with enterprise systems such as ERP systems, which helps organizations manage their operations more smoothly. For example, order to cash process. This process represents the full life cycle of a customer order. First, the customer submits an order request, then the system checks whether the product is available. If the product is available, manufacturing or suppliers provide the product. Next, the product is shipped to the customer. Finally, the company receives payment and the order is completed. This example shows how different tasks work together in the business process. The first step in process implementation is identifying which tasks can be automated and which cannot. In BPMN, tasks are usually classified into three categories. The first step is automated tasks, which are performed entirely by system. The second type is user tasks, which are performed by people but with system support. The third type is manual tasks, which are performed completely outside the system without any software involvement. By identifying these boundaries, organizations can understand which parts of a process can be automated and which parts still require human work. So these are the types of BPMN that I mentioned in previous slides. Automated tasks, for example, check inventory levels, user tasks are human performs, like approving orders. Manual tasks are like retrieving products from warehouse. Automated tasks. For example, the system can automatically check stock availability, send email notifications, or request raw materials from suppliers. These tasks are usually executed by systems such as ERP systems or web services. Automated tasks are important because they speed up processes and reduce the need for manual work. User tasks. For example, employees may go find an order, review an application, or approve a loan. These tasks are managed inside the BPMS through worklists which assign tasks to specific users. Users typically complete electronic forms approvals within the system. User tasks are important because they allow human decision making while still keeping the process organized and tracked by the system. Manual tasks. For example, picking products from warehouse, shipping items, or performing physical inspections. These tasks usually require physical activities and cannot be fully automated by software. One challenge is that BPMS cannot directly address these tasks. Because of this limitation, organizations are often trying to connect manual tasks with the technology to improve visibility. Step 2. Reviewing manual tasks. After identifying manual tasks, the next step is to review them carefully before automations. These are two possible approaches. First, manual tasks can be converted into user tasks, meaning that people perform them within the system. Second, manual tasks can be connected with technology integration. For example, a warehouse worker might scan a barcode and the system automatically receives a signal that the task is completed. This allows the system to track progress even when physical tasks are involved. So, step 3, completing the process model. Conceptual process models often miss important details. To create an executable model, additional information must be included. For example, the model must handle exceptions such as unexpected problems. It must also define input and output data, as well as clear decision logic for gateways. Finally, communication between system and participants must be clearly defined. Adding these details allows the process to run calmly in the PPM apps. Handling exceptions. In real business environments, processes rarely follow a perfect scenario, and unexpected situations can happen. For example, a customer might cancel an order, a supplier may not provide materials, or a system service may fail. Another example is when customer information is incomplete. Because of this possibility, executable models must include mechanisms to handle exceptions, so the process can continue or recover from errors. Adjusting task granularity, which means defining tasks at the right level of detail. If a task is too large, it can be broken down into smaller tasks. If tasks are too detailed, they should be combined into a single task. The goal is to create a process model that allows the BPMs to coordinate tasks efficiently without unnecessary complexity. Step 5, specifying execution properties. To make a process executable, technical properties must be defined. These include process variables and data types which store the information used in the process. The model must also define messages exchanged between systems. Service interfaces are required for external systems to interact with the process. In addition, rules must specify how tasks are assigned to participants, and connections must define which sequence flow is followed. Decision rule with DMN is used to present business decision rules. DMN uses decision tables to evaluate conditions and determine outcomes. For example, in a loan approval process, the decision might depend on annual income and loan size. DMN has separate decision logic from the business model, which makes processes easier to manage and update. So finally, several software platforms support PPN and process automations. Examples include Communita, Biseca, Bonita, IPM, PPM, and Activity. These tools allow organizations to execute PPN models and manage process workflows. They have automate tasks, monitor performance, and integrate processes with other enterprise systems. So for the key takeaways, the transformation from conceptual models to executable models involve several steps. Identify automation boundaries, classifying tasks into automated, user, and manual, connect manual tasks to systems when possible, complete models with data and exception handling, they define execution properties for PPMS implementation. In conclusion, process implementation enables organizations to automate business processes effectively. PPM provides a standard for modeling processes. PPM execute these models and coordinate tasks. Automation improves efficiency and process control. Proper modeling ensures reliable system executions. Thank you so much for watching.